We just wanted to say that. And that's from Tom Daly on Linden Lane.
Okay, great. Thank you. And that's something maybe we can respond offline. I think there was some specifics to that clause that had to do, if I recall, state statute, but we'll get him a written answer to his, if you could forward that email to me and Lauren, and then we'll try to get a written response. Any other hands raised?
No other hands.
Okay. Oh. Okay. All right. So moving on to the next item on the agenda is discuss and take action to approve the selection of SLR International Corporation to provide a proposal for coastal engineering services for the Garvin Point Improvement Project in accordance with the quality-based selection process. Can I get a motion? Okay. In a second.
I'll second.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. So this is relating to the grant that we received and the project that's in CIP, and it's just they went through a selection process and came up with SLR International. I'm not sure who's on here for this. This was added by John Anako, but let's see if
It looks like
Sam is here. So Sam can maybe talk to this briefly. But this is basically, where we are. Oh, John is here. Okay, great.
Sorry.
Hey, John. I know you're supposed to be on vacation, so thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Yeah, so we went through a process. We formed sort of a committee between staff members and 2 members of the Coastal Resiliency Commission, and received qualification statements from 3 qualified firms, including GZA, SLR, and Race Engineering. And we also interviewed those firms. And based on the qualifications and information submitted, we selected SLR. We recommend SLR to provide engineering services for the Garvin Point Improvements Project.
And this is obviously just picking the group that's going to be consulting and advising with us. And then I think, I know that we've had questions from the public about what's the final project going to be. We're not taking away any of Garvin Point, all that. So we'll come back to the board with just to brief the public, with what the proposed recommendation is going forward in terms of the actual design of the project, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
So the agenda item tonight is to select the firm to request a proposal from them for the first phase of the project, which is the feasibility study phase, where they'll review options for the upgrades to the existing bulkhead. And, the next phase of that would be after appropriate improvements to the bulkhead are selected, then the firm would provide another proposal for final engineering service. So design of the improvements and permitting and everything else that's involved.
So,
John, could I just clarify our motion tonight? We are selecting this firm not to provide, we're selecting this firm. They're not providing a proposal yet. Is that correct?
We're selecting the firm as the firm that would be providing the proposal to us for the work. So that's what this is just to select the firm to request a proposal from out of the 3 that we selected based on their qualifications.
Thank you.
So it's not like an RFP, it's an RFQ. So we pick who's the best at doing this, and then they come up with the project cost and design proposal.
Right.
Any other questions on this? No? Okay, all in favor of approving item 3, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, great. All right, thank you very much. Item passes unanimously. Item number 4, discuss and take action to approve a special appropriation request of $56,000 for mock series mobile column truck lifts pending Board of Finance approval. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
I'll second. Oh, Bruce has got it.
Okay, great. And so this is actually, I'm going to let John, and I think Sam was going to be joining. This is something that kind of came up as a safety issue with our Public Works Department, and it's involving some equipment that is used to elevate the heavy vehicles that we have, especially if we have new ones too, and so that the crew can do work on them and make repairs. And I'll let John and Sam talk a little bit more about it.
Okay, I don't know if Sam wanted to start. I can certainly speak to this. So what this is a hydraulic lift that will lift our heaviest vehicles, the large snow plow vehicles and the senior buses. We do have a small a lift for small vehicles and mid-size trucks. It's somewhat limited. It can't lift the largest trucks that we have. And the other thing about this type of lift is they're mobile, so that they can be moved around from bay to bay inside the garage, so that we can have a vehicle up on the small stationary lift in the garage, and also be working simultaneously. You know, for example, if we're waiting for parts or something, working on another vehicle in the garage as well. And it's much more. It's more heavy duty. It will lift everything that we have, all the equipment that we have. It's safer in terms of what it can do. We would be, if we got this, we'd be getting accessories that would allow us to do things like pull the heavy wheels off of these large vehicles and lower them to the ground with the lift itself. So we're not physically, we don't have manpower doing that essentially. So I think it's safer in that regard. Something that the personnel in the highway department have been promoting for a while, and they actually had a demo for a week at the garage where they brought them down and used this equipment on our vehicles, and they really found a lot of use on this. I think it'll make things safer and more efficient, and just will be just more versatile with this type of lift.
Yeah, so just to piggyback on what John was saying, so what kind of got my attention, we recently had lunch with the guys down there. So when they put the senior buses on there, the arms for the lift that's there now are starting to deflect, and they're putting auxiliary jacks underneath that to keep it safe so that the bus doesn't fall off the lift. So I really think that's, if they're going to keep that practice up, it's almost a recipe for disaster. And also with these other, the building and grounds trucks, so they started replacing all their 250s with F550s, and that's a similar situation. So these jacks would eliminate, they'd be used for all those 550s and the buses and then the big trucks, as John said. And plus it gets the guys into a position where they're not laying on their backs and they're able to replace these heavy parts, with good mechanics of their bodies, so they're not getting hurt. And even the HR, our new HR person is behind it for less workman's comp claims as well. I did talk with Stacy, and unfortunately, the public works budget is pretty lean, and we looked around for other places to get money, and we figured this is the best avenue. So.
First comment is, Sam, I hope that you instructed under penalty of severe discipline that they are no longer allowed to overload the lift, period. That whatever extra equipment they're using, that stops today.
Yeah.
Or whenever you saw that.
Yep, well, that'll be taken care of.
Was this in the CIP and we're just pulling it forward?
It's not. It's a new item. It came up. I don't have an explanation why it wasn't budgeted for.
Sam, this sounds like a very meritorious recommendation. I was curious as to why our insurance carrier hadn't identified this as a possible safety issue in the past.
They probably hadn't seen it. I'm sure if they saw it, they probably would have put their brakes on it right away.
Thank you.
Well, I think this is one of those safety issues that, is just a necessity that we're going to have to address. I think going forward, though, these are the types of things that we think should be part of our vehicle replacement plan as an equipment item. And I know that we talked about that a little bit in the building and ground side, because we do have more of an account, I think, for a lot of these extraneous equipments that don't fall into like trucks or I'm not sure, John, is there a line item for these types of equipment in the plan at all? So this is something we might need to, going forward, make sure we're tracking.
It's really, everything is really kind of grouped together in the highway vehicle account. So we don't have a specific line item for anomalies like this. For example, we have some of our off-road vehicle equipment is purchased through that account. So it's like the front end loader is on the list and things like that. So I guess this is really sort of an impertinence. It's not really a vehicle. It's something part of our
Maintenance.
equipment.
Yeah.
It's kind of a little different.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a tool that'll help the guys do their jobs better and safer. And just to note, so the state contract bid price of this is $71,500, and this is almost $16,000. The price we got is almost $16,000 cheaper, and the company's willing to hold it to the end of September till we go through all the approvals. So it's a very good price. We'd hate to lose out on it.
Sam, why is it so much less money?
I don't know. That's a good question. I guess the vendor just we got a quote for 68,000 and another one for 55,000.
No.
It's all the same equipment. It's
I
all the
think
same.
that's right. It's a safety issue. I'm glad you identified it. I think we have to definitely move forward with it.
Okay, any additional
Right.
questions or discussion?
Yeah. So yeah, the only parting comment I have, and I absolutely will vote for this. We have to do it. I get that. This from John, from your description, this is something that the team has been aware of for a little while. As part of the follow through on this, can we go through all the other major equipment that might be supporting equipment and see if we have any other big pieces that are not in the CIP that need to get added into the CIP, since it is now officially CIP season for you, so that we're not doing these extracurricular spends?
Sure, and we can do that.
Yeah, we'll make sure we have a thorough inventory by the time we finalize the CIP for this year. So, and make sure we covered everything.
Yeah, and I applaud the ingenuity of the team for just getting the job done, but stuff gets replaced, people don't. So I would be heartbroken to hear that somebody got hurt trying to work around insufficient equipment.
Mhm. Okay, great. So with that, I guess all in favor of approving item number 4, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is discuss and takes action to add to the call to the special town meeting in town campus room A, Monday, September 26, 2022 at 6:30 PM. Item 3, approve a special appropriation request for $56,000 for Mach Series mobile column truck lifts, pending Board of Finance approval.
So moved.
Okay, and Al seconds. Okay, this is just obviously following the appropriate process if the Board of Finance approves it. I think they're meeting on Thursday. So all in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, great. Motion passes unanimously. Item number 6.
Thanks for everybody.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Discuss and take action to approve the application of a 2022 Small Town Economic Assistance Program grant application for the Downtown Center Project Streetscape Improvements Phase 3. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Okay, and a second, Al. All right, great. This is just, part of our process. We actually submitted, we had to get it in by 5 o'clock today. This is for this year's STEEP project, and in reviewing the different projects, staff actually identified the next phase, completing the streetscape from basically the firehouse down to Route 79 as a priority. And they thought that this would be the best and most applicable project to apply for the STEEP grant. So we spent a little time updating what that cost might be. And I know you guys just got this. We did submit it. So you got what we submitted today. This is just approving the application. So obviously if we get the grant award, then we would spend a lot more time talking about what this means in terms of budget and finances and things. Because we got a cost estimate for the project, to bring it to its completion. It is in CIP already, and I think it comes in year 4 and year 2. And then we would talk about if we would need to move up some of the items in CIP to cover this if we got the grant award. But I think it would be a great thing to kind of get this finished finally, because I know originally this is part of the whole plan. And then in order to stay within the budget and because of different infrastructure issues, the plan was kind of re-engineered to fit within the budget. And that's why the brick and a lot of the streetscape improvements ended where they did. So with that, I just wanted to get kind of check the box that we approved the application at least. And then we would come back if we got the award in September and then go through that discussion process about accepting the grant. So any questions on that? And I know you didn't get a chance to really read the details, but you'll get a better chance to vet it, in September if we get the award. Okay.
And I think we always knew we were going to be going back for more to finish the project. So
yeah,
this is good.
Okay, great. All right. All in favor of approving item number 6, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Okay, great. Thank you. Item number 7 is review possible charter referendum questions, discuss proposed timeline and information to be presented to the public on August 22nd at 6 p.m. And so this is basically was the primary reason we're having a special meeting. And it was kind of just have a good discussion and preparation of where we wanted to go with the referendum questions, with the idea that on our meeting next Monday, the 22nd, we would be voting on what the call to referendum and what those questions would be. And I know Carrie was going to be joining us. Lauren is on now. And so part of your packet included, and actually what I'll do is I'll put them up on the screen. We had talked about 2 topics. Hold on a second, I gotta find the document. We had talked about 2 topics or 2 questions, and that possibly a third, and we were going to discuss that tonight. Here we go. Let me put this over. There we go. So these are the 2 questions that were drafted. And so Jacqueline, is Carrie on the line or no?
I don't see her, Peggy, and I didn't hear from her, and I don't think Lauren did either.
I thought she had confirmed she could attend tonight. Huh. Lauren,
Yeah, she had confirmed that she was attending. She said she would be available from 6 o'clock.
okay,
And I'm not sure where she is tonight. I am texting her right now.
okay. Well, we can at least start, the idea here was to just have a conversation about the questions. These are what she's recommending if with those two. Oh, why did I do that? What did I do? I did. There we go.
Peggy, I was curious about the order of the two questions. I would have thought the order would have been the opposite.
Yeah. Okay. Can you guys see this? Because I'm
Yes.
okay. It keeps disappearing on me. So I don't know if there's specific, I would think, it is funny because I don't know. I guess I would look at it as that's the key thing, right? You're saying you would have approve all the charter stuff and then excluding this item?
Just to my way of thinking, question 2 is much more significant than question 1. It's the approval of the basic document. I don't know. I don't need to be persnickety about this. It just struck me as odd that we'd ask people to vote on a very specific piece before we ask them to vote on the more general piece. Maybe my mind just works differently.
Well,
So
we won't go
Al,
down that
actually,
rabbit
my
hole.
mind,
I mean, I guess you'd have to change it to say, you know, excluding, right? Shall approach.
so I actually, Al, had the same thought processes as you.
Oh,
and
thank
when
you,
I
Lauren. Now I don't
proposed-
feel.
When I proposed the questions to Carrie in that order, she did respond back that this is the appropriate order, that you pull out those specific items that we want people to vote on individually, and then kind of lump everything else into the final question.
Thank you, Lauren.
May I ask a question about question number 1? We know exactly what it says, clear, but do you think we should include 4.1 of the town's charter, changing the term of the Board of Selectmen, include in there, changing the term of the first selectman? Do you think that'll be clear? Because my first question would be, that's the first selectman also, right? Would that help to make that clear? It's not a big deal, but when I read it, it's the first thing. For someone who has not been involved with the charter at all, that would.
Yeah, it's a fair comment. I mean, the other items, all members of the Board of Selectmen, or you could pull out, change the term of the first selectman and other members of the Board of Selectmen to 4 years.
Yeah, it was just clarification, whatever Karen
Yeah.
thinks. When I read it, I think it
Okay.
would be a fair question for people to ask.
I don't take issue with it either. Maybe it's just clarifying, you know, all members of the Board of Selectmen or something. Maybe they don't want to pull out the first.
Well, that would be fine.
Yeah.
All members of the,
Yeah. And so maybe that's something we could suggest. I mean, otherwise, I just, you know, I was kind of struck by the. So am I I think Jacqueline's causing the echo there. Okay. Just that this reference to the date, you know, I don't know. I guess this is probably how it has to be done appropriately, but it just seems very, shall the remaining proposed charter amendments contained in the Charter Revision Commission's final report, which report was accepted by the Board of Selectmen on July 27, 2022, be adopted? Because I thought we made changes. Didn't we accept or reject?
but it went back to am I on mute? No, didn't it go back to the charter committee and come back to us again?
I'm trying to remember what that last meeting. So we basically didn't make any additional changes in the last meeting, right? There was that one, we rejected one change, right?
Yes.
So
So, and-
basically what we accepted. So we accepted all the amendments but one, and one we rejected. So that basically states this here. Shall the remaining.
Yes, and then the only change here is the date. Your meeting actually was July 28th, so that will be fixed before this gets published anywhere.
Okay, the 28th was our meeting. Okay. Okay. Okay, this is gonna be interesting. Does this look similar, Lauren, to what was on the ballot for the last charter revision?
No. So the last charter revision, we had a miscommunication in the legal opinion, and we were under the impression that we had to have one question that approved or denied the charter in its entirety, and we weren't allowed to have multiple questions. So in 2015, that charter that did not go anywhere, that failed at referendum, the question was very simply, shall the final report of the charter be approved, yes or no?
Okay. But it was kind of structured like the shall the proposed charter amendments.
Yes, so-
consider Commission. final
yeah.
report. Okay. All right. Okay. So there's no other way to really, this is kind of how you do it. It just seems really awkward the way these are written. Okay. Well, I mean, I think so we can qualify if we can, qualify that it's all members of the Board of Selectmen, of all members of the Board of Selectmen to 4 years as set forth in the Charter Revision Commission final report. And then any other proposed changes? No?
So I'm curious, one, I think Noreen's call out about the first, and if there's a way to weave the first select person
Yeah.
into that question, because that's the one that everybody's going to care about. So I think that's a good call out on her part.
Okay.
The
Of the first selectman.
the question I have is,
Yeah. go
yeah,
ahead.
so specifically saying the first and the 4 volunteer selectmen, so that people understand.
And other members of the Board of Selectmen, maybe. Change the
Right.
term of the first selectman and other members of the Board of Selectmen to 4 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
if there's a way to come up with that wording, I think
Yeah.
it would be
Okay.
beneficial.
Or maybe we say change
did
it to
we stick-
including the first selectman. Okay. Yep.
Did we stick to 2 questions on purpose? Did we deliberately limit it here, or
No.
did we just feel
That-
that none of the other issues rose?
That was what I proposed at the last meeting. And I said, if there was an additional, if people felt that you wanted to talk about anything else, this is the meeting to do it. So if there was anything else, I think the only thing that was raised was whether or not we felt we needed to pull out the adding an additional member to the Board of Finance. In my view, I don't think it's really something, it's such a nuanced change. And I think if you highlight it here, you kind of make it a controversial change. I don't think it is, but that's up for discussion.
Certainly, it would be something you call out in your factual, your FAQs about the changes. We would call that out. I think the quorum is the other big one. Changing it from 75 to 150 is likely to have fans and maybe some that aren't fans. So that would be the other one that I would consider calling out. And I don't have necessarily a burning need to see these extra questions on, but it's probably worth us talking about.
I mean, I feel that, people who understand how this process works, understand why that is being changed. It will be discussed at the public information session and highlighted as a change. I would agree with that. And just so my intention is to draft a presentation for that's based on what Joe McDougall already did. And then add some slides, and then I was going to send a draft hopefully by Thursday morning to the board. So you all can look at it. And basically this would be like a slide presentation that would be given at the public information session on Monday night. So that would certainly be identified as a change, that would be highlighted. The Board of Finance would be highlighted as part of that presentation. And then some of the other things that had been highlighted by the special appropriation amount of money that requires town meeting, those types of things. That's where the question is, do we make it though, because you're going to have people coming into the voting booth with very little background, and the more you pull out all these nuances of procedures and stuff, I just worry that they're not going to be fully vetted when they're voting on these things. But the information will certainly be there for people who want to understand what the charter changes are, because it'll be available on the website. We'll do just like we did with the referendum. We'll put together like an FAQ thing, and have lots of information available for people to read up in advance. So I don't know, Al, what's your thoughts about other questions?
Yeah. Bruce, to me, this is a real judgment call, and without any factual or objective basis, in my mind, it just doesn't rise to the same level of significance. And I worry that pulling out and isolating a detail like that will cause more confusion than clarity. And I can't point at any objective evidence to that. It's to me, it's just doesn't rise to that level of importance. I think the 4-year term does, and I'm very comfortable with both of these questions. But Bruce, that's just my judgment, and I don't even know whether you and I are disagreeing about it. It's just a question of how significant a change is it.
Well, right. So if we went down and pulled out sort of the top, 3 or 4 things that, that we would want to talk about, this first one, the 4-year terms, obviously right at the top of the list, the Board of Finance and the quorums are sort of the round out the top 3. I understand, and I'm not necessarily trying to do a hard sell on this as an additional item. I just want to make sure that we're kicking it around and that we're all comfortable that it's okay to include it in the bigger body of the approval. So this is more of an exercise in diligence than advocating hard for a particular point of view.
I can understand both your points. We are doubling the size, and diligence is the right word. I mean, the transparency issue here. I don't know how many people really go and read the whole charter when we go for these votes, but this is a significant, it's doubling the size of the requirement. So I could really go either way, but I understand what you're saying about showing us that we're doing our diligence to the public.
I think that, the Board of Finance question is more in line with the first, the Board of Selectmen question. So if you take this logic, we're making structural changes to the boards, that's where you could say, okay, well, then maybe it makes sense to have the Board of Finance question there because we're adding a seat, and with the Board of Selectmen, we're changing the term. So those are like big structural changes to key boards in the town. Once you get into the thresholds and things like that, I feel like now it's like, which one do you pick more, right? The quorum, the special appropriations, there's a lot, like lots of different changes there that we've made changes to.
Right.
And I think that what we all know is that we never reach quorum at 75, right? So it's not like we're trying to avoid quorum. We never reach it anyway. Or rarely do. And it's just not
right. I think
it's not is that an accurate number that truly reflects the legislative body? 75 people out of 13,000 registered voters, right? So
yeah. Well, I'm content to move on from that. I do have one other question, and I can't believe we didn't hit on this when we were discussing it live, but on the issue of the term limits for chairs, we don't seem to call out, and I don't think it was our intent to include the chairs for any other elected boards like the Board of Finance. They elect their board themselves. I don't believe it was our intent to establish a limit on the chairmanship of that board. And so I'm just looking to see.
No, I think it specifies it's appointed boards. It's not elected boards because those are handled differently.
It does.
Yeah.
And that's the way I read it. But when I was doing sort of a last minute scan, I went, ooh, did we, or did we unintentionally catch up, or have we created something? So I think just, the affirmation that is applying only to appointed seats and not elected seats.
I mean, we can at least clarify that as our intention when we do the presentation, so that's part of the record. It's not going to be.
I think that's
change the
great. Yeah,
document.
I think that's a great resolution, Peggy.
Yeah.
I think that's a great resolution.
Okay. And that way, at least we know it's part of the public record of what the intention is, because we can't change, unfortunately, the document now. There's probably going to be a bunch of these coming up too, Bruce, that we're going to be like, oh, we didn't think about that, but a lot was thought of, so that's good. We did cover a lot of things. And the other thing is, keeping in mind that the Board of Selectmen, that is part of the first selectmen's. There is no election necessarily, except the town elects the chair of the Board of Selectmen, right? So
Right.
it's different. So I guess then, how do you, the idea would be Monday is we would actually vote on these things. And so I guess I ask, again, support for the 2 questions, or is there, a strong desire to have a third?
I'm good with the 2 questions that we have in front of us.
Some point we have to roll the dice. It sounds
Yeah.
like we're at that point.
Have we added the Board of Finance thing to the question 1? Or question 2? You brought them together.
No, I'm saying that would be a third question. We would have to draft a third question, and so do you feel strongly enough that we should be considering a third question? We discussed it, but the question is whether or not we have to actually draft that third question. And are you requesting that be part of the proposal on Monday? Because we have to basically then write our, what is it called, a referendum? Isn't it called a referendum, whatever, that we'd be putting together for Monday night? Because I think we have to do it Monday because we're hitting that wall now with the timeline. And Lauren, I know we have to do this by next week, don't we, in terms of calling the referendum?
Yes, we need to do it by next week so that the town clerk can get the questions over to the state in order to approve them for the ballot in November.
So I guess I'm comfortable with the 2.
I think we were going in the other direction. I was going to say, if we were going in the other direction, if we were going from 7 to 6, then I would say absolutely call it out. Going from 6 to 7, I think intuitively is going to make sense to people to go to an odd number.
And it expands access, right? So there's more board members. Okay, I just want to make sure that, on Monday, there's no expectation that we have a drafted third question on here. We will make the change to include, I'll get Carrie's recommendation on adding the first selectman, to clarifying that it includes the first selectman in question 1. And we can get that circulated. And then I think, Noreen, are you okay with just the 2 questions, or do you feel strongly?
I'm fine with that. I just,
Okay.
since you brought it up and connected the 2, I wanted to make sure we.
Yeah. And it will be highlighted. All of these things that we're talking about will be highlighted on the presentation, and all the information going out about the charter to the public.
Okay,
So,
that's fine with it, Peggy.
yeah, we're not going to just post the red line. We'll have a nice, good, concise summary, and that was highlighted in Joe's presentation also, but I'm going to expand and add a few things to his presentation. So, okay, so with that then, I think then I'll go back to Carrie. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened here, but she might have had something that got delayed. We will then be ready to vote hopefully on Monday. on the call for referendum. And I'll try to get to you this week, what those will look like, I guess the actual votes that we will be taking, but this would be the language for the questions, and then we'll have a revised one for question number 1. And then the other thing is I had wanted her to talk a little bit about, but we can talk about it. The public information session, because we have not voted on the call to referendum, we can kind of talk about why we think things had happened if we get questions or want to speak to those things. But once we vote Monday night, my understanding is we're kind of in that quiet period where we cannot, advocate or not advocate, or just the opposite, using public resources. So when we talk about these things in board meetings going forward, or using town email or anything like that, that we cannot take positions on this. So that clock will start. And Lauren, correct me if I'm wrong, that'll start on Monday night when we call the referendum, right?
Yes, I believe so.
So, just want to highlight that again. So, and then we're kind of in that zone, and we will put together some very simple explanatory text that we can hand out to the public about the changes. Okay, any other questions or? No, okay, great. All right, well, I guess with that then, we have more to follow on Monday. With that, I guess, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Hey, all in favor?
Aye.
Great. Have a great night, guys. Thank you. Bye-bye.